Have you ever loved someone so deeply that you gave them every part of yourself, your time, your heart, your patience, only to be met with silence, half-love, and emotional distance? Have you ever stood in front of someone, heart wide open, hoping they'd choose you, and instead they shrugged? They acted like you'd never leave, like you were the one person they could mistreat and still expect to stick around. But now, everything's different. Now the silence they once ignored feels deafening. Now they're scrolling through your profile, rereading your old texts, asking mutual friends what you're up to. Now they care. But the sad truth? It took losing you to wake them up. They didn't care when you left, because they didn't believe you actually would. They thought you were bluffing, that you'd be back, that you'd always chase. You see, when someone is used to your love being unconditional, they start treating it like it's disposable. They think kindness equals weakness. They confuse your loyalty for lack of options. But the day you finally walked away wasn't a game. It wasn't a strategy. It was survival. You were tired of explaining your worth, tired of begging to be seen. You weren't angry anymore. You were exhausted. That's when you knew it was over. Quietly, you left. No drama, no scenes, just gone. And now it's hitting them like a storm they never saw coming. They're starting to realize what they had, what they took for granted. They're realizing that love like yours doesn't show up twice, that the version of you who once cried over them no longer exists. You healed, you leveled up. You stopped looking back. This video is not about revenge, it's about realization. It's about the moment they feel what you felt. It's about the emotional shift that happens when the person who didn't care suddenly starts to regret everything. When they scroll through their messages and realize the silence isn't temporary, it's permanent. You've changed, and they didn't see it coming. In this video, we're breaking down 7 psychology-backed reasons why they didn't care when you left, but why your absence is haunting them now. These aren't just tips. These are moments. Moments you'll feel in your soul if you've ever loved someone who couldn't love you right. And I want you to drop this in the comments if you've been there. They didn't care when I left, but I'm never going back. Let's get into it. Number 1, they felt nothing until you were gone. It's strange how someone can get so used to your presence that they forget it's a choice, not a guarantee. You were always there, texting back, checking in, giving your time, offering your heart, even on days when it felt heavy. You loved them with a consistency that made them believe it would never end. And in that comfort, they got careless. They ignored the little efforts. They rolled their eyes at the soft goodnights. They brushed off the way you tried to communicate, to fix things, to hold on. They confused your patience for passivity, your softness for neediness. And over time, they stopped appreciating you altogether. See, people don't always leave because they're angry. Sometimes they leave because they've been quiet for too long, because nothing changes, because they're tired of being the only one trying. And that's what happened to you. You didn't leave with fire. You left with silence. You stopped begging. You stopped explaining. You stopped showing up for someone who never really showed up for you. And that's when it hit them. Not when you packed your things, not when you blocked their number, but when days turned into weeks, and the silence wasn't just space, it was final. That's when they started scrolling through old photos. That's when they played your favorite song and felt the ache. That's when they realized, you're not coming back this time. Psychologists call this emotional contrast. It's the gut punch of losing what you once had but didn't value. Only now, the absence makes it echo louder. Your silence became the mirror they never wanted to face. Suddenly, they saw all the ways they took you for granted, all the times they thought you'd never leave, and now, they're left with nothing but memories and guilt. And you? You're finally at peace, because they may have felt nothing while you were there, but now that you're gone, it's all they feel. And they'll never forget the day they realized that losing you wasn't just about losing a relationship. Number 2, they didn't notice when you needed them most. There's a moment in every relationship where the silence isn't peaceful, it's screaming, and you were in that moment, quiet but aching, smiling but slowly fading. You gave your heart in full, not because you were weak, but because you believed love meant showing up, even when they didn't deserve it. You hoped they'd notice the shift in your voice, the sadness behind your eyes, the way your energy dimmed. But they were too busy, too distracted, or maybe too self-absorbed to care. You kept pouring from your cup even when it was empty. You sent the good morning texts. You tried to fix the mood. You tried to be easy to love. But deep down you were hoping they'd reach for you the way you always reached for them. They didn't. They thought you were strong, unbreakable, fine, but inside you were tired. Tired of being the only one who cared. Tired of being in a relationship that felt like a one-sided war. You didn't ask for much. Just effort. Just honesty. Just someone who wouldn't make you feel like you were too much for wanting the bare minimum. And when you finally went quiet, not to punish them, but to protect yourself, they noticed. But not because they missed you. They missed what you did for them. The comfort, the validation, the effort they never had to earn. Psychologically, it's called emotional labor. You carried the weight of the relationship while they coasted on your kindness. And the worst part? They didn't realize what you were going through until your silence became the loudest thing in the room. Now they scroll through your social media, looking for signs of the old you, the one who chased, the one who waited. But that version, you buried her, and in her place, a woman who finally realized she didn't need to beg to be loved properly. They didn't lose you when you left. They lost you when you cried next to them, and they didn't even turn their head. Number 3, you were breaking inside, and they looked the other way. There was a time when you were still holding on, still hoping, still trying to convince them that you were worth staying for. You weren't asking for the world, just for them to see you, to choose you, to meet you halfway. But all they did was take. You were breaking silently, but they didn't notice. Or maybe they noticed, but they didn't care enough to ask why you were quieter, why your eyes didn't shine the same, why the messages you used to send like clockwork now came hours later, or not at all. They thought your silence was peace, but it was exhaustion. They thought your calm meant indifference, but it was numbness. You'd already cried behind closed doors. You'd already rehearsed conversations they never gave you space to have. And what hurts the most? It wasn't just that they didn't show up. It's that they expected you to still be there after all of it. They never asked how your heart was doing, but they noticed when your tone changed, when your energy shifted, when your presence started fading. That's when the panic crept in, when they realized the attention they ignored was disappearing. Psychologically, it's called emotional neglect. It's not always about what someone does, it's what they don't do. They don't ask, they don't show up, they don't care, until you stop caring too. But by then, it's too late, because your healing doesn't come with fireworks. It comes in quiet moments, when you finally let go of what was never holding you properly. They didn't lose you when they walked away. They lost you when you were still right there, begging to be seen, and they looked through you. And now, they feel your absence louder than they ever felt your presence, because the person who used to beg for love finally gave it to themselves. Number 4, they thought you were waiting, but you were healing. They imagined you sitting by the phone, checking their stories, wondering where they were, who they were with, and if they missed you. In their mind, you were still stuck in that moment, the one where they walked away like you didn't matter. They thought you were paused, frozen in that chapter, waiting for a return that was never promised. But what they didn't realize was that silence doesn't always mean pain. Sometimes it means peace, growth, rebuilding. You weren't stuck, you were rising. While they were out trying to distract themselves, you were doing the work. Quietly, consistently. You cried, yes. You broke down, yes. But then you picked yourself up. Not all at once, but piece by piece. Some mornings with tears in your eyes, some nights feeling numb, but still you moved forward. That's the part they'll never fully understand. How your silence wasn't weakness. It was discipline. A choice to stop bleeding for someone who kept handing you the knife. They mistook your quiet for longing, but you weren't longing for them. You were remembering who you were before them. You were finding the strength to become someone new, someone stronger, someone wiser. Not for revenge, not to show them what they lost, but to finally love yourself the way they never could. And now, they're watching. Maybe they won't admit it. Maybe they'll pretend they don't care. But they notice. They hear about you through friends. They scroll through your pictures late at night. They remember moments you've already healed from, because now they're the one wondering, do they miss me? Would they come back? Have they moved on? And the truth? You did miss them once, but you missed yourself more. That's what saved you. As the Stoics say, he who conquers himself is the mightiest warrior. You didn't chase them. You chose yourself. And while they thought you were waiting, you were out there becoming everything they didn't see in you. And that realization, that's what haunts them now. Number 5. They didn't expect you to outgrow the pain. They thought the pain would break you, that it would keep you small, that you'd carry the weight of what they did to you like a chain around your heart. In their mind, you were going to stay hurt, stay bitter, stay lost in memories. Because when they walked away, they expected your world to stop spinning. But what they didn't expect was for the pain to grow you. At first, yes, it shattered you. It was hard to eat, hard to sleep. Everything reminded you of them. The playlist, the coffee shop, that one movie you always watched together. You kept replaying the last conversation in your head, wondering if maybe you could have done something different, something more, something that would have made them stay. But then something shifted. You realized that healing doesn't mean forgetting them, it means remembering yourself. Slowly, your mornings started to feel lighter. You smiled at strangers. You found joy in silence. You created new routines. You made peace with the past, not because it was okay, but because you refused to carry it anymore. That's what they didn't see coming. You outgrew the story they left you in. The one where you were the broken one, the one who never recovered. But no, your pain became fuel. And with every tear, every sleepless night, every lonely walk, you were building a version of yourself that no longer needs closure, no longer needs them. Now you move different. You talk different. You carry yourself with a kind of peace that only comes after surviving a storm you never thought you'd make it through. And while they might still be chasing distractions, you're out here chasing purpose, peace, alignment. And when they look back, they don't see the person they left behind. They see someone they never truly understood, someone who turned heartbreak into transformation, someone they can't reach anymore, not because you're hiding, but because you've elevated. That's what stings the most. As Rumi once said, Don't get lost in your pain. Know that one day your pain will become your cure. You turned the pain into power, and that's something they never thought you could do without them. Number 6. They realized too late. You were their safe place. People often don't recognize stability until they lose it. While they were out there looking for more excitement, more validation, more attention, they overlooked the rare kind of peace you brought into their life. You weren't loud about your love. You didn't make them beg for support. You just showed up, consistently, honestly, wholeheartedly. But in a world full of surface-level attention and empty conversations, they mistook your calm for boring. They mistook your reliability for being too available. They didn't realize that real connection doesn't always look like butterflies. It looks like feeling safe without asking for it. And now, without you, that silence feels heavy. Because they're surrounded by people who want something from them, people who play games, people who offer chaos disguised as passion, and suddenly, the peace you gave feels priceless. But it's gone. And they can't get it back just by saying, "I miss you," because you were never just someone to text late at night. You were their place to land, their soft space, their shelter from their own storms. And they took that for granted. You listened when they didn't even know how to explain what they were feeling. You cared on days when they didn't feel lovable. You celebrated their smallest wins like they were gold. And they didn't see that as rare. They saw it as expected. But your silence now, that's what's making them look inward. That's what's showing them just how much your presence held their life together. And the more they search for someone who feels like you, the more they realize you weren't just a chapter. You were the calm in their chaos. And it hurts, because now you're not available, not because you're punishing them, but because you learned the difference between being a safe place and being a landing pad for someone who never intended to stay. You outgrew the role of caretaker in someone else's story, and now your silence speaks what words never could. I was never too much. You just weren't ready for real love. Let them sit with that. Number 7, you let go. And that's what finally broke them. They always thought you'd hold on, that no matter what they did or didn't do, you'd be there, waiting, responding, reaching out, still believing. And for a long time you did. You believed in their potential. You forgave what they never even apologized for. You stayed even when you were hurting, just hoping they'd finally see your worth. But something shifted. Not all at once. Quietly, like the way a flame dies down after burning too long. You stopped begging for clarity. You stopped fighting for someone who made you feel like a question mark. You stopped waiting for them to become the person they promised to be. And when you finally let go, not out of anger, not for revenge, but for your own peace, that's when it hit them. They didn't believe you'd walk away, because they knew how deeply you felt, how loyal you were, how much you loved with your whole heart. They thought they had time. They thought they could disappear and reappear like it meant nothing. They thought they could love you on their terms. But love doesn't survive in confusion or silence or disrespect. And when you stopped trying to prove your worth, they were forced to face their own lack of effort. It wasn't your love that broke them. It was your absence. It was the realization that the one person who saw them at their worst and still chose to stay, finally chose to choose themselves. Now they look for pieces of you in people who can't even hold a candle to your presence. They scroll through memories like they're trying to feel alive again. They replay your laughter in their mind because it's the only warmth left. And here you are, not broken, not bitter, just free. You let go of the story you wrote for them in your heart. You let go of the illusion that they'd change. You let go of the hope that love alone would be enough to make them show up. And now, they're the one holding on to a version of you that no longer exists. Because letting go wasn't weakness, it was the bravest thing you ever did. And that's the truth. They didn't care when you left. But now it's hitting them harder than they ever expected. Not because you vanished with noise or anger, but because you left with silence and strength. You stopped chasing, you stopped explaining, and you started healing. This isn't just about heartbreak, this is about self-worth, about rising from the ashes of someone else's indifference and learning to walk like you never needed their validation in the first place. They thought you'd always be available, that your heart would always be theirs to take for granted. But now, you've become someone they can't reach, someone they can't shake. Because when you rise with peace instead of bitterness, that's the kind of power no one sees coming. And if you're watching this, just know, this is your moment, your time to choose you. To close the chapter they kept open with confusion, to walk forward, not with revenge, but with dignity. Because real healing isn't loud, it's silent, it's strong, and it's unstoppable. If this video spoke to your soul, let it be a reminder that your silence has value, that your peace is sacred, and that the person who didn't value your love will never forget your absence. If this message touched your heart, like, share, and subscribe for more healing, empowerment, and truth, because this is only the beginning of your glow-up. Hey there, welcome back to the channel. They texted you. Maybe it was just, hey. Maybe it was a long paragraph. Maybe it was something that brought back every memory you've tried so hard to bury. And now, your heart's racing, your hands hover over the keyboard. But before you type anything, I need you to hear this, because this moment right here, this one message, can either pull you back into chaos or push you further into the healing you fought for. Let's be real, that text isn't just a message. It's a test of your growth, your boundaries, your emotional control. And deep down, you already know that. You know what it took to get to this place, the nights you cried, the versions of yourself you had to bury, the strength you had to rebuild in silence. And now they show up, like nothing ever happened. This isn't about ignoring them out of pride. This is about protecting the version of you that finally chose peace over pain. Psychologists call this the trauma reactivation loop. It's when someone who hurt you reappears and your nervous system lights up, craving answers, closure, or connection. But here's what they don't tell you. You don't need closure from the person who broke you. You need boundaries that protect your healing. And this is where your power begins. Not in replying, not in proving anything, but in pausing, in thinking before reacting, in choosing silence when silence is the strongest language you can speak. As Marcus Aurelius once said, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. That applies to responses too. Not every message deserves your energy. Not every text is a door you need to open. So in this video, we're diving into 7 critical reasons why you should pause before replying to that message. We'll talk about psychology, real-life healing, Stoic philosophy, and the truth behind why they reached out now, and what you should do instead. Because your response isn't just about them, it's about the life you're building without them. I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. My peace matters more than their text. Let's get into it. Number 1, they're not texting you for you, they're texting you for themselves. Let's be honest, if they really cared about you, they would have shown it when it mattered, not now, Not after you've gone silent, not after you've started to move on. The moment they see you're no longer accessible, no longer orbiting their world, they panic. That text you received. It's not love. It's ego. It's a craving for control. It's a desperate reach for the attention you once gave so freely. You see, when someone has taken your love for granted, they don't miss you. They miss what they could get from you. They miss the validation, the comfort, the emotional supply. And now that it's gone, their message isn't a check-in on your soul. It's a check-in on their own insecurity. Psychologists call this a narcissistic injury, when a person feels the loss of admiration or attention they've gotten used to, and they reach out not out of love, but to restore their ego. But you're in a different place now. You've started healing. You've started recognizing your worth. That text they sent, it's not an apology, it's bait. And if you're not careful, you'll bite, thinking it means something deeper. But don't forget how they made you feel when you needed them most. Don't forget the silence they gave you when your heart was screaming for answers. This is your test. The moment you recognize that someone's message is not about rebuilding love, but re-establishing control, you win. Because now, your silence isn't just ignoring them. It's protecting the healed version of you. It's the power move they never saw coming. As Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Their message, out of your control. Your reaction, that's your power. Number 2, they want access to the old you. When they hit send, they weren't texting the person you are now. They were reaching out to the version of you who tolerated being put last, the one who kept forgiving broken promises, the one who stayed up at night wondering why love always felt like begging. But that version doesn't live here anymore. You've outgrown the patterns that once kept you stuck. You've stopped explaining your worth to people who never saw it. You've finally realized that healing isn't about winning someone back. It's about winning yourself back. They don't miss the real you. They miss the one who needed them, the one they could ignore and still expect to be around. But now you've learned how to pour that energy into yourself. You're not trying to fix things with someone who broke you. You're rebuilding you, and that makes you unrecognizable to them. This is called an identity shift. Psychologically, when we go through deep emotional pain and grow through it instead of running from it, our brain rewires, our boundaries sharpen, our self-worth hardens, and suddenly, things we once accepted start to feel heavy because they no longer fit the healed version of who we're becoming. That text they sent, it wasn't meant for the stronger, clearer, more peaceful you. It was meant for the you who would have replied in seconds, hoping, praying, negotiating for love. But that chapter is closed, and when they realize they no longer have access to the version of you who made it easy for them, it shakes them. Your silence says, I've evolved. And that's what stings the most. Because people who only valued you when you needed them don't know what to do when you stop needing them altogether. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. And your thoughts now, they're painted with self-respect, peace and wisdom, not desperation. So I want you to drop this affirmation in the comments. The old me is gone. I don't shrink back. I rise. Let them text the past, but don't invite it into your future. Number 3. The text isn't about you. It's about their ego needing validation. Let's be honest. If they truly valued you, they wouldn't have waited until you walked away to remember your worth. That message they just sent, it's not coming from a place of love. It's coming from a bruised ego. They're not reaching out to reconnect with your soul. They're reaching out because your silence made them feel forgotten. And some people can't stand to be forgotten by someone they thought would never stop caring. This is what psychologists call a narcissistic injury. It happens when someone who used to feel in control suddenly loses the emotional upper hand. Your lack of response? It's not just silence, it's a mirror. A reflection showing them that the game they used to play no longer works. And the moment they realize they don't have that power over you anymore, they panic. You see, some people don't want a relationship. They want reassurance. Reassurance that you still care, that you're still emotionally available, that they still have a place in your heart, even if they didn't earn it. So they send a simple, "Hey," or "I was just thinking about you," hoping you'll open the door. But the real question is, why now? Why only after you stopped chasing? Because it was never about losing you. It was about losing their reflection in your admiration. And now that you've stopped feeding their ego, they feel invisible. And invisibility is a terrifying thing for someone who thrives on attention without giving commitment. Don't fall into the trap of mistaking ego-based outreach for genuine love. Love respects you in your presence. Ego only chases you in your absence. Your silence isn't cruel. It's clarity. It's the line that says, "I no longer entertain what disrupts my peace." As Epictetus said, if someone succeeds in provoking you, realize that your mind is complicit in the provocation. But you're no longer complicit. You're no longer reactive. You've risen above the need to explain yourself to someone who never listened the first time. Let them wrestle with the silence they created. You're not here to feed an ego. You're here to protect your peace. Number 4, they want the old you back. When they text you now, they're not reaching out to meet the new you. They're reaching back, hoping to find the old version of you, the version that tolerated breadcrumbs, that explained themselves, that kept showing up even when they stopped appreciating your presence. But here's the truth. They're texting a ghost, because that version of you, it died in the silence. They're not in love with the person you've become. They're in love with the power they had over who you used to be. And that's the painful part. They don't want growth. They want familiarity. They want the comfort of your forgiveness, the reassurance of your availability, the softness of your love, without the responsibility of treating it right. But you've changed. You've healed. You've stared at your own broken heart in the mirror and said, "Never again." You've rebuilt your self-worth not on their attention, but on your own value. And that kind of transformation makes you unrecognizable to the person who thought you'd always stay the same. This is what happens when silence is used for reflection, not revenge. You didn't go quiet to hurt them. You went silent to hear yourself, to unlearn what love is not, to rise without dragging the weight of people who didn't know how to hold your heart. Now they're trying to re-enter with an "I miss you" or "I've been thinking." But what they're missing is the person who would have replied in a heartbeat, the one who placed their needs above your boundaries, the one who feared losing them more than losing yourself. That person's gone, and they're mourning the control they had, not the connection they lost. This is your moment of power, not to hurt them, not to win, but to realize that you don't have to prove your growth to someone who only appreciated your worth when it was gone. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good person should be. Be one." You're living proof of that now. Let them text the past. You're not going back there. You're too busy building a future that honors your peace. Number 5, they're not reaching out to reconnect. Let's be honest. When someone who let you go suddenly texts you, It's not always about love. It's often about power. It's about testing the waters. It's about seeing if you're still emotionally available. They want to know if you're still that person who would drop everything the moment their name pops up. But now, you're not. This kind of message doesn't mean they've changed. It doesn't mean they've reflected on how they hurt you, or suddenly understand your value. Most times it's about checking if the door is still open, and if you answer too quickly, too eagerly, you silently tell them, nothing's changed. You're still here, still waiting, still hoping. And that's the exact power they're looking for. But here's what you've learned in the silence. You don't need to keep proving your worth to someone who couldn't see it the first time. You don't need to educate someone on how to treat a heart that loved them deeply. You're no longer that version of yourself who mistook crumbs for love. You've upgraded, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. This moment, when that message shows up on your phone, is a test of everything you've learned in your healing. Do you respond to soothe the ego of someone who never fought for you, or do you honor your silence and let your growth speak louder than words ever could? They're not texting because they miss you. They're texting because they miss the control they had over you, the reassurance, the chase. But the healed version of you doesn't need to chase anymore. You choose peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, love that shows up without manipulation. As Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. That message you just got, that's their way of trying to pull you back into their control. Don't fall for it. Let them wonder. Let them question. Let them sit in the discomfort of losing someone who finally chose themselves. Number 6. The old you would have replied, but you're not that person anymore. There was a time when their texts made your heart race, when you'd drop everything just to respond, hoping this time it would be different. You wanted connection, closure, clarity, but all you ever got was confusion and emotional exhaustion. You were constantly trying to decode mixed signals, fill in the blanks, and prove you were enough for someone who only gave you half their heart. But that version of you, they don't exist anymore. You've evolved, grown, built boundaries. You've walked through the pain, not around it. And that pain shaped a stronger, wiser, more self-respecting version of you. You no longer see their message as a sign of hope. You see it for what it is. A ghost from the past trying to haunt your peace. Psychologists call this an identity shift. It's what happens when you stop reacting from your old emotional wounds and start responding from a place of self-awareness. That's why the same message that once made you spiral now just makes you pause and smile, because you finally see through it. You finally value your peace over the temporary high of being noticed. This is growth in action. This is healing without needing validation. And this is what scares them the most. Not that you're angry, not that you've moved on, but that you've truly changed. That you've become someone who doesn't need them anymore. They may still know your number, but they don't know the person who holds that phone now. And that's the real loss. Because the old you would have replied, the healed you doesn't need to. As Marcus Aurelius said, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And now your thoughts are calm, focused, powerful, unshaken. Don't respond for nostalgia. Don't respond for the past. Respond only to protect your peace. And sometimes, the most powerful response is no response at all. Number 7. Your silence isn't a game, it's growth. They might think you're ignoring them to make a point, that you're playing hard to get, that your silence is some kind of mind game, but it's not. It's not revenge, it's not strategy, it's evolution. Because there comes a point in your healing journey when peace becomes louder than chaos, when you realize that not everything needs your reaction, not every message deserves your energy, and not every person is meant to stay in your life just because they reach out. You've stopped trying to prove your worth. You've stopped needing someone to get it. You don't need closure from the same hands that broke you, and you definitely don't need temporary attention from someone who couldn't handle your permanent love. They texted you, but they don't realize that while they were busy playing silent treatment to gain power, you were building silence into your strength. And here's the truth, most people won't admit when you stop engaging. They lose the version of you that always said yes. The version that forgave too quickly, that settled for crumbs, that confused being available with being valued. That's the version they're really texting for, but it's gone now, replaced by someone who understands their value and honors their boundaries. This silence, it's not an empty space. It's full of lessons, full of strength, full of clarity, and most importantly, it's full of you. So if they try to bait you with, "I miss you," remember what it cost you to miss yourself. If they try to guilt you with, "I thought you cared," remember how long you cared while they didn't. And if they try to lure you in with nostalgia, remember healing is forward, not backward. You're not being cold, you're being clear. You're not avoiding them, you're choosing you. As Epictetus said, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. And this is you, finally letting go of what you never had control over. Because now they see it, they feel it. The silence that used to hurt you now echoes in their world. So here you are, stronger, wiser, quieter, but not because you've shut down. Nah, you've woken up. You've realized that not every message deserves a reply. Not every hand that reaches out is offering love. And not every person who texts you back is worth inviting into the new version of your life. They texted you hoping to find the old you, the one who waited, the one who tolerated, the one who would have dropped everything to answer. But that version doesn't live here anymore. You've changed, you've evolved. You've finally understood that your peace is priceless, your energy is sacred, and your attention is earned, not owed. And yes, silence is uncomfortable, but silence is also sacred. It's in the silence that you heal. It's in the silence that you grow. And it's in the silence that they finally feel the consequences of losing someone who loved them deeply and purely. This isn't about ghosting or playing games. This is about protecting your space, your heart, and your future. So when that text pops up on your screen, pause, breathe. Ask yourself, does this message serve the healed version of me? If the answer is no, then your silence is your answer. Because sometimes the strongest response isn't rage, revenge, or explanation. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is nothing at all. Before you go, I want you to do 3 things. Drop this affirmation in the comments right now. My silence speaks louder than their words. Share this video with someone who's struggling to move on and needs to reclaim their power. And hit that subscribe button, because this channel is for anyone rising from heartbreak with strength, clarity, and a whole new level of self-worth. You're not alone. You're leveling up. And we're doing it together. They texted you. But your silence? It says everything they were never ready to hear.